Leaders in the field of science, technology, engineering, and math.
STEM can be an equalizer.
Forging a path in the communities we call home.
I want them to know nothing is impossible as long as they're willing to work hard for it.
From coding to climate change.
We have all the conditions of crisis, which means we also have the most powerful opportunity to create something here that can inspire.
The field of medicine.
If not you, then who? If not now, then when?
To space exploration.
The big thing for me was pursuing my dream and not letting anyone stop me from doing that.
They're all a part of Boston's Black history, inspiring our future. Here now from Boston 25 News, Crystal Haynes.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Tonight, we're focusing on local leaders of color who inspire our future in the fields of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we begin with a woman on the front lines of the climate change crisis. Data suggests that African Americans are more likely to live near toxic facilities in areas of high pollution. Combining the climate cause with the clergy, Reverend Amma White Hammond has been fighting for environmental justice for decades.
Welcome to New Roots. We are reimagining what church can be.
From the pulpit at the church she founded in Dorchester.
Sometimes those things which could seem like the worst moment of our lives may be a moment of turning.
To leading statewide rallies for environmental justice and working with political campaigns on sustainability initiatives. New Roots AME pastor Reverend Amma White Hammond's work centers on combining spirituality with science.
They'll also be able to do meditation with young people in here.
And I met her in one of her favorite places, the church's greenhouse, an example of that work.
We live in a world where a lot of things are like separated into separate boxes. And I kind of ignore some of those boxes and do what I feel called to do.
Reverend Amma comes from a family of well-known Boston community organizers. Her father, Reverend Ray Hammond, is a founder of the 10-Point Coalition Against Youth Gang Violence and the former chair of the Boston Foundation. Her mother, the Reverend Gloria White Hammond, is a trustee at Tufts and a leader in the movement to save Darfur.
I remember in the 7th grade, I boycotted Coca-Cola because of their engagement in South Africa. And kids would come up to me and be like, "Don't you want some of this soda?" I've always been trying to figure out, how do I live out what I believe in?
But Reverend Amma didn't always want to be a minister.
If you had told me at 16, the 16-year-old me, if you told me I was going to be a pastor, I'd have told you had no idea what you were talking about. Back then, I thought I was going to do international agricultural policy. I was really focused on issues of food security.
In 2005, she was the director of a youth arts program for students of color called Project Hip Hop. In 1 year, 5 of her students were shot. 2 of them died. And then
Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm.
By the end of the summer, Hurricane Katrina came and hit the Gulf Coast.
You can see where this levee broke.
Just got on a plane and found a place to volunteer and went there. And while I was there, I saw things. It helped me to realize what was going to happen as climate change worsened.
Volunteering at a church, she was asked to lead a Bible study.
And a few months later, I was at another gathering around juvenile justice. And 2 people that I had known less than 24 hours both said to me, "When are you going to accept your call to ministry?"
The rest is history, weaved into Boston's progressive movements. Reverend Amma has been active in Attorney General Maura Healey's Racial Equity Advisory Council and has been an outspoken advocate for issues ranging from immigrants' rights to the fight for a $15 minimum wage. She was arrested along with 22 others in 2017 while protesting the installation of a natural gas pipeline in West Roxbury. Her latest work involves lobbying for the passage of Senator Ed Markey's federal climate plan, the Green New Deal.
I think about a quote from Howard Thurman, the great theologian and mentor to Dr. King, who said, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because the world needs people who've come alive." And at the end of the day, that's what I hope people can say about me.
Reverend White Hammond tells me that people can find the greatest transformation when their back is up against the wall, and our back is definitely up against the wall. Well, industry trackers rank Boston the 7th best market for tech talent in North America and the 3rd fastest growing tech hub in the country. Tech company founder and resilient coders educator Noel wants to make sure that Black and brown people in Boston get a piece of that pie by teaching them how to code. code. On the 17th floor in a co-working space in the financial district,
So when you're saying here on line 1,
a tech entrepreneur turned educator is working to close the wealth gap for people of color.
you can do the refresh there.
One line of code at a time. Noel is managing director of engineering at Resilient Coders. Here he creates curriculum, runs this after-school program, and puts together a 15-week boot camp training anyone from any background how to code.
And I can still remember getting a sailboat to go from one side of the screen to the other, and I lost my mind, thought I had magical powers, and right then and there I knew that like computers, technology is something that was like a passion.
Growing up in Philadelphia and raised by a single mom, Leon's connection to STEM was tenuous at first. His family couldn't afford a computer until the doctor at his mom's job changed everything.
And the doctor she worked for actually gave me a computer. And I remember one day she came home, she cried because it was in pieces all over the bedroom floor.
Curious about how the computer and the world worked, Leon excelled in school and got a scholarship to Yale. He later used his computer coding and design skills to found Social Sci, an online survey platform designed to meet all the requirements of scientific researchers. He opened offices right here in Boston.
The idea of like this tech and being able to put it together and build and do creative things with it was there for a while.
And that led Leon to Resilient Coders.
The two biggest things right now, in my opinion, are climate change and the wealth gap.
According to a White House report, the U.S. will need to add 1 million more STEM professionals to meet workforce needs. But African Americans are the least likely to enter the STEM field.
#1 job for a black male and for males in about 29 different states is driver. You look at the #1 jobs for black females, one of those is retail associate. You already see Too Simple and Amazon having self-driving trucks on the road. You already see when you walk into CVS not having to talk to anyone, going through self-checkout.
Leon says the average salary for the graduates of his program is $96,000. And every time a graduate comes back to volunteer or just to reconnect, he's reminded of the generosity he experienced as a kid who took apart a computer and unlocked a career in STEM.
STEM can be an equalizer. To write code, you don't need a degree. You need access to some technology, and you need access to a community of individuals that can help guide you or give you the right resources to learn.
Resilient Coders graduates have gone on to work for tech company startups, companies like Wayfair, and the city of Boston.
There's no doubt in their mind that they can do whatever they want to. And that's what I want them to feel all the time.
Coming up, we go inside a STEM-focused charter school, how the director's STEM journey inspires both her staff and students. And local high schoolers putting an astronaut on the spot, asking her about her path into NASA's space program. When our in-depth special, Honoring Boston's Black History, continues.
They shape the future of science and technology.
African Americans who are STEM pioneers.
Her medical invention helped restore sight to the blind.
Dr. Patricia Bath was an ophthalmologist who developed a laser technique used to treat cataracts.
She was the first black female doctor to receive a medical patent.
A teacher and a researcher,
Dr. Bath worked to bring quality eye care to underserved populations. Boston 25 News
in Boston Public Schools,
celebrating Black History Month. African Americans make up less than 10% of all STEM workers, and researchers point to a lack of STEM readiness among students of color. But the Benjamin Banneker Charter School in Cambridge, they're looking to change that. 63% of the staff is people of color, and Executive Director Shirley Breachu says that representation not only matters for her students, it's made a difference in her life.
The rules of the classroom.
The kids at Benjamin Banneker Charter School might be surprised when they find out their executive director and #1 cheerleader,
This could be her getting the bread.
actually hated being in school.
Gardening was a big part of our lives. Playing outside was a huge part of our lives. And that didn't translate well into school. Into school is paper, pencil, following rules, and So young Shirley was a bit mischievous.
But young Shirley Bretou did love learning about the mechanics of things. She grew up in New York City to Haitian immigrant parents. Her father owned a cab company, and when a car broke down, Shirley got to watch him fix it.
How things work, why things work. And it worked for me because I was able to use my hands. And so as a student, I did better when I was able to do things.
As Shirley's love of engineering and sciences grew, so did her awareness of the glaring underrepresentation of women and women of color in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. According to federal labor data, African American women account for less than 3% of the STEM workforce.
It was really hard when I was growing up because sciences were not something that girls did, and there weren't very many accolades for when you did well in school around science. So a lot of times I felt that I was being pushed towards reading and writing well.
Shirley went into education. She was finishing up teaching school in the 90s when she got an offer she couldn't refuse. Join the staff at a brand new STEM charter school funded by a group of black teachers focused on closing the STEM achievement gap for kids of color.
And 23 years later, here I am. What's a cap?
A hat. It's a kind of hat.
Ah. I hadn't even dreamt the possibility of here.
Shirley tells me the formula for success in STEM for kids of color is access, opportunity, and representation. A recent study from 3 universities found exposure to at least one black teacher in grades 3 through 5 increases the likelihood a student of color will go to college.
There's no doubt in their mind that they can do whatever they want to. And that's what I want them to feel all the time. I want them to know nothing is impossible as long as they're willing to work hard for it.
You know, in late December, the House passed legislation to make STEM education funding more accessible to students at tribal and historically black colleges and universities.
Up next, a profile in perseverance in the medical field.
There were definitely times along the path where I was told that I was not good enough, despite the fact that I was valedictorian of my high school class. I was still told that, it wasn't my place.
This Mass General doctor, who had her credentials questioned on an airline flight, talks about her lifelong battle for racial equality. When this Boston 25 News special, celebrating Boston's Black history, returns.
According to the Harvard Business Review, African Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, but only 4% of doctors. MGH researcher, doctor, and fitness enthusiast Fatima Cody Stanford is looking to change that while attacking one of the top killers for African Americans, obesity and heart disease.
Obesity medicine physician, scientist, diversity and inclusion specialist, and fitness enthusiast Dr. Cody Stanford's day often starts before the sun is up.
I feel like I should practice what I preach. So at 6:15 this morning, I was on my spin bike. As soon as I finished that workout, I was on with patients doing virtual visits. And they, of course, asked me, well, did you work out today? And I was like, well, absolutely, I did.
The Mass General Hospital endocrinologist is equally dedicated to making sure her patients have access to doctors of color. She's also the vice chair of the Minority Affairs section of the American Medical Association.
What we've seen in medicine is a decline in several underrepresented groups in medicine over the last several years. Particularly, this is important to black men.
According to the Association of American Medical Colleges, fewer black men entered medical school in 2014 than in 1978. The cause? Unequal K-12 opportunities, the absence of mentors, lack of financial resources, and negative public perceptions of black men. Challenges both African American men and women, like Dr. Cody Stanford, continue to experience.
There were definitely times along the path where I was told that I was not good enough, despite the fact that I was valedictorian of my high school class, had $1.8 million in scholarship offers to colleges, etc. I was still told that, it wasn't my place.
Dr. Cody Stanford says she's wanted to be a doctor since she was 3 years old. Today, she calls her patients her family in medicine.
The reason why I think even at that early age I was drawn to this field is because, you are, entrusted with so much with regards to a patient. They come to you seeking advice, seeking care over the long term typically. And I saw myself in that role.
A role that was hard fought.
In medical school, I ran for president of the class in my first year and served as the first black class president at the Medical College of Georgia, a school that was founded back in 1828. And I can tell you that even in that role, I was faced with a lot of ridicule, a lot of chastising.
Even after getting degrees in medicine, public health, and a gold congressional medal, Dr. Cody Stanford found her credentials questioned by attendants on a Delta flight after she stabilized a fellow passenger having a medical incident. The story making national and international headlines.
You can do as many degrees as you want, but people traditionally will see me as a black woman and presume that I must not be in a role of any importance.
Whether it's mentoring, treating patients, or publishing research, Dr. Cody Stanford says she's always pushing to make sure someone else has a seat at the table.
If not you, then who? If not now, then when? I feel like I've been tasked to do this work at this particular time. I'm going to continue to drive forward. I'm going to continue to really make sure that I'm bringing people up.
Dr. Cody Stanford says representation matters in medicine because patients are more likely to see a doctor that understands their life experience.
Still ahead, an astronaut shares her journey into the elite NASA space program.
If you are interested in physics, chemistry, mathematics, engineering, I say pursue it with all your might.
Her inspiring advice to the next generation of STEM achievers. When our Boston 25 News Special, celebrating Boston's Black history, returns.
They shape the future of science and technology.
African Americans who are STEM pioneers.
Always inventing, Lonnie Johnson was nicknamed the professor in high school.
A mechanical and nuclear engineer. He joined the Air Force and worked for NASA, but he never gave up on his own inventions.
Johnson invented the top-selling toy, the Super Soaker.
So you can thank him for all those cool water gun battles.
Boston 25 News
and Boston Public Schools
celebrating Black History Month. Welcome back. You know, when folks think about STEM, they think of NASA as the pinnacle of success. So we decided, let's invite an astronaut into the studio. But I'm not going to ask the questions. The Malden High School robotics team is going to ask the questions. And here with us is Dr. Jeanette Epps. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's nice to be here and see these students working so hard on robotics. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Lynn Sarah, and you are going to kick us off.
So my question would be, what steps did you take as a teenager or a high schooler to get to where you are today?
Well, as a high schooler, I was very unsure of my path in life. So I always knew that I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. The idea of an astronaut was far beyond me, so I didn't even think that far in the future. So the things that I did was I focused on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I knew that I was going to go into aerospace engineering, and I just started there. So my goal in talking to students is to just get them to start doing things. And so being consistent over time is what I think helped me a lot.
And Fabrice, you had a question.
Yes. So you said that you weren't necessarily unsure about being an astronaut. What led you in your life to become an astronaut? Like, what central events occurred?
So I was an aerospace engineer. When I got out of graduate school, I went to work for Ford Motor Company, and I worked in the research lab there. So I was very technical. But then after working at the Ford Motor Company, I went to work for the CIA. And while working there, I was very technical, but I also became operational. And so the difference in those things is that you can be the scientist that can design an aircraft, but not necessarily know how to fly it, or you can be a pilot who can fly the plane, but not necessarily design it. So I think that being an astronaut, you kind of combine both of those skills.
And Val, you are the lead builder on the robotics team, and you have a great question.
When you're training to become an engineer for NASA's crew, being a woman of color, what were some challenging obstacles you had to overcome?
Well, being a woman of color, I think we always run into different things, but I didn't focus on those things. The big thing for me was pursuing my dream and not letting anyone stop me from doing that. Because I really do believe that everyone has their own issues and problems. It's how you handle them that makes you stronger and better if you handle them well. So for me, the biggest thing I had to overcome was my parents weren't scientists or engineers. And so when my twin sister and I wanted to do these things, they never thought it was weird or odd. But going through graduate school, you know, a lot of self-doubt will creep in. And the battle is to not let yourself talk you out of what you love. If you are interested in physics, chemistry, mathematics, engineering, I say pursue it with all your might. If you love what you do and you pursue it with passion, I think you'll be very successful.
Dr. Epps, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you guys for the excellent questions, too.
All right, we invite you to explore all our Black History Month content on our website at Boston25news.com. Thank you for joining us for this very special Boston 25 News special. Remember, Boston's Black history is everyone's history. I'm Crystal Haynes. Have a good night.